So Kevin Lee is going to be taking on Rinat Fakhretdinov, and for now, we know where he fits into all of this. And before I do kind of give my opinion and get into the video, I'm very interested in the public's opinion, because the public really seems to think that Rinat Fakhretdinov is just going to dominate Kevin Lee, whereas I'm actually not so convinced. So please let me know in the comments of this video, what do you think of this matchup? Who are you predicting to win? Do you like the matchup for Rinat? Do you like the matchup for Kevin Lee? I'm interested to know in the comments, but now I'll give into my opinion on this fight. I am picking Rinat Fakhretdinov in this matchup, but this is going to be a tough fight for him, man. This is not going to be a walk in the park for Rinat Fakhretdinov by any means. This is a massive step up in competition. Did Kevin Lee look good against Diego Sanchez in his last fight? No. Absolutely not. In my opinion, actually, Kevin Lee looked horrible. But if we do put that performance aside, who has Rinat Fakhretdinov beaten that is on Kevin Lee's level? Because Kevin Lee at one point, man, he was a ranked lightweight. He had good wins. You know, he's the only guy to beat Gregor Gillespie. He did that by KO. He was pretty competitive in his fight with Charlie Olives 3 years ago, a long time ago now. And then he still did have a somewhat competitive fight with D-Rod as well, which at the time wasn't that bad of a loss. Now, and it probably has aged somewhat poorly now that D-Rod has lost to Ian Gary, and he's also lost to Neil Magny. But at the time, it wasn't that bad of a loss. But who has Rinat Fakhretdinov beaten in the UFC? And on top of that, who is he beaten in his entire career? Because he's got really good wins in his last 5. But you got to look through. Before he fought Alberto Uda, who was 14-2, he fought a 3-3 opponent, and he was 15-2. He was 14-2 fighting a 1-1 opponent. 13-2 fighting a debuting guy. You get the point. Just look at the record. It's a little bit sketchy. It is a little bit sketchy, but obviously he did go on to fight some really good guys, got the UFC's attention, fought on this actually fantastic card, by the way. Absolutely fantastic fight card. This is so many good prospects on this card, where he was spotted by Dana White, who was in attendance on looking for a fight. And now here he is. He's in the UFC. He beat Andreas Michailidis, and he beat Brian Battle, who in my opinion are not as good at wrestling than Kevin Lee. And I don't really know if that's not really an opinion. That is probably just a fact, right? Kevin Lee is a better wrestler than Brian Battle. Kevin Lee is a better wrestler than Andreas Michailidis. And now Rinat Fakhretdinov is taking on Kevin Lee, who does have good wrestling, and on top of that, he's got good grappling himself. And Kevin Lee, you know, now he's probably bulked up a little bit to 170. I do believe he moved up to 170 for the D-Rod fight. I think he dabbled with 170 at times, but now he's finally there. He's going to be committed to 170. He is a little bit small for the weight class, though, in my opinion. But for Rinat Fakhretdinov, I think he should be able to take down Kevin Lee. I think he should be able to get the takedowns. But on the feet, it really is worth noting that Rinat Fakhretdinov, in my opinion, he isn't anything too special. He is pretty sloppy. He does have KO power, like he did KO Eric Spicely, who did have a UFC run himself. I believe Eric Spicely, though, has been KO'd a couple of times in his career before that, though. But the point really is, Kevin Lee's got a good chance in this fight. This is not a nightmare matchup for Kevin Lee by any means, in my opinion. I think Kevin Lee, in fact, this is a winnable fight for Kevin Lee. And I feel like the reason why this has been made is, if Kevin Lee beats Rinat Fakhretdinov, he's going to have a lot more hype behind his name, and now all of a sudden we can give Kevin Lee a ranked opponent. Maybe we can give Kevin Lee a Neil Magny fight. Maybe we can give Kevin Lee, I don't know, like maybe we could give him a Li Jingliang fight, a Daniel Rodriguez rematch, Kevin Lee versus Ian Gary. There's so many different options you could do with Kevin Lee if he wins. Whereas if Rinat Fakhretdinov defeats Kevin Lee, all of a sudden you've got Rinat Fakhretdinov with a lot of hype behind his name, and then you can boost him up the rankings and maybe do Rinat Fakhretdinov versus Neil Magny, Rinat Fakhretdinov versus some guy in the rankings. You know what I mean? The point is, it's kind of one of those fights where the winner of this fight will very likely get a ranked opponent. And for Kevin Lee, if he can win this fight, it's a really good opportunity for him to make people realize that he's legit. Because at the end of the day, Rinat Fakhretdinov is coming into this fight with a 21-2 record. Depending on where you get the record, though, he is listed at 20-1. Just at different stats, but the point is he is going to be coming in against a guy who is 21-2, and if he does win that fight, people can go, man, like Kevin Lee just beat a guy that's 21-2, that's really impressive, and he did just beat a hot prospect, so now Kevin Lee's going to have that name value back, and if Rinat wins, he's going to take Kevin Lee's name value. Is it a good fight for Kevin Lee? I don't think it's that bad. I really don't. I don't think it's going to be an absolute domination from Rinat Fakhretdinov like Rinat Fakhretdinov's been able to pull off before. He absolutely dominated Bryan Battle. It is worth noting Bryan Battle took that fight on short notice, but he absolutely dominated him. 14 minutes of control time, I believe 5 takedowns. Same sort of story against Andreas Michailidis. Took him down 7 times. A lot of minutes of control time. Just a dominant performance, man. And do I think he can do that to Kevin Lee? I don't think so, man. I think Kevin Lee's got good enough wrestling to at least stuff a couple of takedowns, keep the fight on the feet a couple of times, and maybe get his own takedown. Like, what does Rinat Fakhretdinov look like when he's on his back? We don't really know. Kevin Lee might be able to test that, so I am still going with Fakhretdinov. I think this fight is closer than a lot of people are giving it credit for. If you think I'm an idiot, please do let me know in the comments. Let me know if you think Rinat Fakhretdinov is going to dominate this fight. If you think Kevin Lee's going to win this fight, let me know in the comments. You know, I'm very interested to hear what people have to say about this very odd matchup, right? And also what is more odd is the fact that it's not on UFC 290. I feel like you could capitalize on Kevin Lee's name, put him on UFC 290, put him on the prelims, maybe even the early prelims because that card is so stacked, and capitalize on that name that Kevin Lee does have, because he does have a pretty big name, and make that card really hyped up. But what they are doing to get us really hyped up for UFC 290 is stacking this UFC Fight Night, man. The week before the International Fight Week, the week before UFC 290, this card is stacked, man. This is a good card. Look at the main event, Strickland Magomedov. A lot of interest, a lot of intrigue on the Magomedov side. We don't know how good he really is. We all know who Sean Strickland is. Damir Ismagulov versus Grant Dawson. Ranked lightweight. You don't get that too often, you know. Lee versus Fakhretdinov, as I just talked about. Lipsky versus Gado is a pretty good fight. Brito versus Escobar is a great fight. Griffin versus Morales is a great fight. Abdulrazak Al Hassan versus Bruno Ferreira is an absolute banger, right? And then Ivana Petrovic makes her debut at 125 at the UFC, against Luana Carolina. And then there's a couple of fights at the bottom, which are good fights, but they're not fights that get me really, really excited, you know what I mean? But this is a good card. This is a good fight. I'm interested to hear what you guys think in the comments, and if you did make it this far in the video, please do leave a like, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'm just going to continue kind of making these individual fight videos. I've got a lot of good ideas. They're maybe not that good, but I've got a lot of ideas of videos that I kind of want to make. But these videos are pretty fun to make as well, and I get to talk about upcoming fights. I get to get myself a little bit more hyped up for upcoming fights. So, yeah, I think I'll just keep kind of making these sort of videos, and I will see you guys in the next one.